Hi there and welcome. It's Kiwi here at Kiwi Concepts, and today I'm going to share with you how to build a scene on your cards with just 3 stamps. I was actually inspired to make this card because I was reminded of the acorn-obsessed squirrel from the animated movie Ice Age. If you're not familiar with that movie, he's basically this crazy squirrel that is constantly trying to find a place to store his precious acorn. But the poor thing just keeps running into all the worst situations, so he's gotten a little mad. So anyways, we will be channeling his crazy energy and using the Forest Friends stamp set by My Favorite Things to build the scene of a mountain of acorns with a crazy little squirrel sitting on top of it through some basic masking techniques. With all my masking projects, I always like to start off by stamping out my plan without any masking involved to get an idea of what I want to do. And after all of it is planned out, I can start making my masks. And I generally try to use things that I already have sitting around the house. So in this case, I'm just going to grab some Post-its so I can make my 5 acorn masks and 1 squirrel mask. Now we can start working on our scene, and we're going to start by drawing a line in pencil to mark where our ground is going to be. I'm actually going to take out my previous sketch to help me figure out where I stamped the squirrel previously, but I basically used the rule of thirds to place them in the upper third line when I did my sketch. So we're going to stamp our squirrel in black VersaFine ink, which is Copic friendly. And then we're going to sketch a mountain in pencil. So it doesn't need to be perfect, but we do want a somewhat triangular shape so that when we build our acorn hill, it's going to cave into the top of the hill. So after all that's done, we're going to cover up our squirrel once again so that we don't get any ink on him. And then we can start stamping our acorns from bottom up. We will start off our stamping a few acorns down at the bottom, and then we'll cover it up with our mask so we can continue stamping layers and layers of acorn. So this might seem a little tedious, but at the very end it's going to be amazing afterwards. But basically we're just stamping a few, masking a few, and then stamping a few more, and it'll just keep going up and up. And we want to make sure we stay within those guidelines that we originally drew in with our pencil, and then we'll erase that later on after we're done stamping and the ink dries. And just a side note, I always get ink on my hands somehow. Magically it disappears, and so I have to keep a baby wipe next to me through the entire process so that I can keep wiping my hands. That way I don't accidentally put a fingerprint somewhere on this. After we finish stamping, we can go back with a Copic multi-liner to clean up any edges that weren't stamped as well. And once that's all cleaned up, we can begin coloring our acorn mountain. and the squirrel with some copic markers. Now that we're done coloring, we can go back and alter the eyes on the squirrel to make him look nutty. And we're going to do that by drawing a swirl first with a black marker. I happened to grab a thin Sharpie that was next to me, but any black marker will do. And then we're going to draw another swirl with a white gel pen. For the next step, we're going to cover up our squirrel once again so that we can add some color to the background by blending in some blue distress inks to help our image stand out. And we're actually not going to bother masking the acorns because that will require way too much effort. So we are going to use just a post-it to block majority of the acorn mountain, and we will blend each side. Now, I know what you're thinking, well, wouldn't some of the blue ink get onto the acorn, then you'll see some discoloration of your image, but yes, that is going to happen, but we're going to fix that, and we're going to utilize the advantages of distress inks and copic marker properties to get rid of some of those inks. So, copic markers are alcohol inks, and their colors do not fade from water, and since you can remove color of distress inks with water, that means we can go back in with a brush and some water and soak up some of the blue tint that got onto the acorn. So right now I'm wetting the areas that I see a little bit of blue that got on when I was blending my distress inks, and then I'm just taking a paper towel to soak up the water from those areas so that the blue is coming off. Before we finish up this image, we're actually going to go back in with some color pencil just to add a touch of extra shading. I really like using color pencils when I'm working with small images because they have a much finer tip than your copic markers to get into those little niche areas. And lastly, we're going to add some shading to the bottom of this entire pile on the ground, and then we can finish up the card. If you're interested in knowing the supplies used in the video, they are listed in the video description below, or you can hop over to my blog at kiwiconcepts.com. Thank you for tuning in, guys, and I hope to see you again soon.